As the world quiets and the stars begin to shimmer in the velvet sky, let your mind drift back to an era of clashing swords, whispered conspiracies, and a man whose name echoes through the ages, Julius Caesar. Tonight, we embark on a journey through the winding streets of ancient Rome, where ambition burned brighter than the midday sun, and betrayal lurked in the shadows of marble columns. This is not just a tale of conquest or power, but a story of a man who reshaped the world, whose life was a tapestry of triumphs and tragedies, woven with threads of courage, cunning, and heartbreak. Picture yourself standing on a Roman hill, the cool night air carrying the distant hum of a city alive with dreams and danger. The Tiber River glints under the moonlight, and somewhere, in the heart of this sprawling empire, a young man named Gaius Julius Caesar is beginning a path that will lead him to glory and to his end. This video is crafted to guide you gently into sleep, with a soothing narrative that unfolds the life of one of history's most towering figures. Each chapter of his story will draw you deeper into the past, wrapping you in the rich textures of Rome's golden age, until your eyelids grow heavy and the present fades away. I'd love to know where you're listening from tonight. What corner of the world are you in, and what time is it there? Are you curled up under a blanket, watching the clock tick past midnight, or perhaps it's early evening and you're winding down after a long day? Drop a comment below to share your moment with me. It's like we're all gathering around a fireside, sharing stories across time and space. If you enjoy this journey, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a tale from history's vast library. Your support keeps these stories alive, and I'm so grateful to have you here. Hello, my name is Sherry, and welcome to my channel. So let's begin. Imagine a city alive with the pulse of ambition, where the air hums with the clamor of merchants, the chants of priests, and the murmurs of political intrigue. This is Rome in 100 BCE, a sprawling metropolis of marble and mud, where grandeur and grit coexist in uneasy harmony. Into this world, under a summer sky heavy with promise, a child named Gaius Julius Caesar is born. His cries echo through the narrow streets of the Subura, a crowded, noisy district where the patrician family of the Julii, though noble in name, lives in modest circumstances. The Subura is no place for the faint-hearted. Its alleys teem with life, from artisans hammering bronze to street vendors hawking their wares, while the scent of fresh-baked bread mingles with the tang of unwashed bodies. Here, young Caesar's earliest memories are shaped, not by the polished halls of the elite, but by the raw, vibrant energy of Rome's underbelly. The Julii claim descent from Venus herself, a divine lineage that casts a long shadow over the boy. His father, also named Gaius, is a respectable but unremarkable senator, a man who navigates Rome's treacherous political waters with caution. His mother, Aurelia, is the true force in the household, a woman of sharp intellect and unyielding resolve, whose lessons in discipline and ambition will carve themselves into her son's soul. Picture her, a tall figure with piercing eyes, teaching young Gaius the art of rhetoric by candlelight, her voice steady as she recites the deeds of their ancestors. She tells him of Aeneas, the Trojan hero, and of Romulus, Rome's founder, planting seeds of destiny in a mind already hungry for greatness. Rome in this era is a republic fraying at the edges. The Senate, once a bastion of order, is riven by factionalism. The optimates, defenders of aristocratic privilege, clash with the populars, who champion the common people. Blood has already stained the Forum, where the Gracchi brothers, reformers bold enough to challenge the elite, met violent ends. Young Caesar, barely a teenager, witnesses the city's unrest firsthand. He sees the graffiti scrawled on walls, hears the whispers of rebellion in the Subura's taverns, and feels the weight of a world teetering on the edge of chaos. One night, as he stands on a rooftop overlooking the city, the distant glow of torches in the Forum catches his eye. A riot, perhaps, or a senator's rally. Even then, he senses that Rome is a stage, and he, a player yet to claim his role. Caesar's education is rigorous, befitting a patrician. Tutors drill him in Greek and Latin, in philosophy and oratory, but it's the stories of Alexander the Great that set his imagination ablaze. He dreams of conquest, of a name that will outlast the centuries. Yet his youth is not without peril. At 15, his father dies suddenly, leaving him the man of the house. The responsibility is crushing, but Orlia's guidance steadies him. She arranges his betrothal to Cornelia, daughter of Cinna, a powerful popular's leader. This alliance, sealed in a quiet ceremony under the gaze of household gods, ties Caesar to a faction at odds with Rome's dictator, Sulla. The choice is dangerous, but it's a spark that ignites his ambition, setting him on a collision course with power. Sulla's shadow looms large over Rome. A ruthless general turned dictator, he purges his enemies with chilling efficiency. When Caesar, barely 18, refuses to divorce Cornelia at Sulla's command, he becomes a marked man. Picture him slipping through the Subura's alleys, his heart pounding as he evades Sulla's spies. He hides in the homes of friends, his noble lineage both a shield and a target. One night, under a moonless sky, he flees Rome entirely, crossing the Apennine hills to the rugged countryside. The air is cold, the path uncertain, and yet in his chest burns a fire that no exile can extinguish. He is young, hunted, and alone, but he is Caesar, and already the seeds of defiance are taking root. This is only the beginning of his story, a tale that will carry him from the shadows of the Subura to the heights of empire. But what happens when a young man, marked by destiny, steps into a world that seeks to break him? As the night deepens and the stars wheel overhead, let's follow him into the crucible of ambition, where every choice could mean glory or ruin. The hills of central Italy stretch out under a pale dawn, their slopes cloaked in mist as a young Gaius Julius Caesar, barely out of his teens, moves swiftly through the shadows. Exile has sharpened his senses. Every rustle in the underbrush could be a friend's signal or a bounty hunter's step. Sulla's wrath has driven him from Rome, but even in hiding, Caesar's mind churns with dreams far grander than the muddy paths he treads. Picture him pausing by a stream, his reflection wavering in the water, a lean figure with sharp features, eyes burning with a restless energy. He is no longer just the boy from the Subura. He is a man forging his own destiny, one defiant step at a time. Rome may have cast him out, but he will return, and when he does, the city will know his name. Sulla's eventual pardon, secured through the pleading of Caesar's allies and perhaps a grudging respect for the young man's audacity, allows him to return to Rome around 78 BCE. The city he re-enters is a cauldron of ambition, where every speech in the forum and every feast in a patrician's villa is a battlefield for influence. Caesar, now in his early 20s, knows he must carve a place for himself in this unforgiving world. His education, honed by tutors and sharpened by his mother Orlia's relentless expectations, becomes his weapon. He studies the orations of Cicero, whose silver tongue sways crowds, and masters the art of rhetoric himself. Imagine him practicing in a cramped room, his voice rising and falling as he shapes words into tools of persuasion, each syllable a step toward power. His first forays into public life are modest but deliberate. At 22, he takes on legal cases, defending clients in the bustling courts of the Forum. Picture the scene: toga-clad senators and merchants crowding the basilicas, their voices echoing off stone walls as Caesar, with calculated charm, argues his cases. His wit and eloquence draw eyes, and whispers begin to circulate about the young Julius with the noble name and the daring spirit. He knows the crowd's power, how a well-timed jest or a stirring plea can turn strangers into allies. But Rome's elite are not easily won. The patricians, with their ancient pedigrees, look down on the Julii's modest wealth, while the populars, his father-in-law Cinna's faction, demand loyalty he must balance with caution. Caesar's ambition finds its first true stage when he secures a minor priesthood, the office of Flamen Diales, only to lose it due to political shifts. Undeterred, he turns to the cursus honorum, Rome's ladder of political offices. In 69 BCE, he becomes quaestor, a financial officer, and is sent to Hispania. The journey west is no mere posting, it's a chance to prove himself beyond Rome's watchful eyes. Picture him riding through rugged Spanish hills, his small entourage kicking up dust as he inspects tax records and settles disputes. Yet even here, far from the Forum's marble, his mind drifts to greater things. Legend tells of him standing before a statue of Alexander the Great in a Spanish temple, weeping at the thought that he, at 30, has achieved so little compared to the Macedonian conqueror. The moment is a spark, igniting a resolve that will burn through the years. Back in Rome, Caesar's flair for spectacle sets him apart. As aedile in 65 BCE, he organizes public games that dazzle the city. Gladiators clash in arenas, their blades glinting under the sun, while crowds roar from tiered seats. Chariots thunder in the Circus Maximus, and exotic beasts, lions, elephants, parade through the streets, a testament to Caesar's knack for capturing hearts. He spends lavishly, far beyond his means, plunging into debt to win the people's love. Picture the Subura at night, lit by torches as citizens chant his name, their voices rising like a tide. He knows the mob's affection is fleeting, but it's a currency he wields with skill. Behind the scenes, he courts powerful allies. Crassus, Rome's wealthiest man, whose gold fuels Caesar's ambitions, and Pompey, the celebrated general whose shadow looms large. Yet every step is fraught with risk. Rome's political waters are treacherous, and Caesar's boldness draws enemies. The Optimates, guardians of tradition, watch him with suspicion, sensing a man who bends rules to his will. His debts mount, and whispers of scandal follow, rumors of affairs, of bribes, of a hunger for power that borders on dangerous. One evening, as he stands on the Palatine Hill, overlooking the city's flickering lights, he must wonder. How far can ambition carry him before it becomes a chain? The Senate's marble halls await, but so do its daggers, hidden in the folds of togas. As the night wraps Rome in its quiet embrace, Caesar's path is clear, but the cost is not. What happens when a man dares to dream beyond the Republic's limits, in a city that devours its own? The sea stretches endlessly before a small merchant ship, its sails catching the Mediterranean's fitful winds in 75 BCE. On board, a young Gaius Julius Caesar, barely 25, stands at the rail, his sharp eyes scanning the horizon. He's bound for Rhodes, seeking to refine his oratory under the famed rhetorician Apollonius Maulon. The journey promises to polish his already formidable skills, but the sea is a lawless place, and danger lurks beyond the waves' gentle rhythm. Picture the scene. The sun dips low, painting the water gold, while gulls cry overhead. The crew, weathered men with calloused hands, murmur about recent pirate raids, their voices tinged with unease. Caesar, though, seems unperturbed, his thoughts fixed on Rome's distant forum, where glory awaits. But fate has other plans, and the open sea is about to teach him a lesson in audacity that will echo through the ages. Off the island of Pharmacusa, near Asia Minor, the horizon darkens, not with storm clouds, but with the sleek silhouettes of Cilician pirate ships. These are no mere brigands. Cilicia's pirates are a scourge of the Mediterranean, their swift vessels preying on trade routes with impunity. Rome's navy, stretched thin, has failed to curb their power, and now their sails bear down on Caesar's ship. The crew's panic is palpable as grappling hooks clang against the hull, and bearded, sun-scorched pirates swarm aboard, their daggers glinting. Caesar, unarmed but unflinching, meets their leader's gaze. His patrician bearing and calm defiance mark him as no ordinary passenger. When the pirates demand a ransom of 20 talents of silver, he laughs, a sharp, defiant sound that cuts through the chaos. 20 talents. He's worth 50, he declares, and insists they raise the price. The pirates, bemused but greedy, agree, unaware they've captured a man who will turn their game against them. For 38 days, Caesar is their prisoner on a rocky islet, a wind-swept speck in the Aegean. Picture him there, surrounded by coarse men who live by the sword, their camp a clutter of tents and stolen goods. Yet Caesar does not cower. He treats the pirates as if they were his retinue, joking with them, reciting poetry, and even demanding silence when he wishes to sleep. By firelight, he reads them his speeches, his voice rising over the crackle of flames, and when they mock his verses, he calls them barbarians with a grin. It's a performance, bold and calculated, for Caesar knows his life hangs by a thread. He joins their games, runs races along the shore, and wins their grudging respect, but his eyes never lose their fire. He tells them, half in jest, that he'll return one day to crucify them all. The pirates laugh, thinking him a brash nobleman playing at courage. They cannot see the steel beneath his charm. Meanwhile, his allies in Rome scramble to gather the 50 talents. The sum is staggering, equivalent to thousands of pounds of silver. But Caesar's family and friends, led by his indomitable mother Aurelia, work tirelessly. Messengers race across the sea, coins are counted in torchlit rooms, and the ransom is delivered to the pirates' cove. As Caesar boards the ship to freedom, he turns to his captors, his smile sharp as a blade. "I'll see you again," he says, his voice low but clear. The pirates wave him off, their laughter carried away by the wind. They cannot know that Caesar's words are no idle boast, but a promise etched in his heart. Freed, Caesar does not sail for home. Instead, he heads to Miletus, a bustling port city. There, with a charisma that bends men to his will, he persuades local officials to lend him ships and men. Picture him standing on a dock, his toga salt-stained but his presence commanding, as he rallies a makeshift fleet. Days later, he returns to Pharmacusa under cover of night, his ships gliding silently through the dark. The pirates, caught off guard, are no match for his resolve. Caesar's men storm their camp, capturing the very brigands who mocked him. The stolen goods are reclaimed, and the pirates are bound in chains. True to his word, Caesar sees justice done, not with the swift mercy of a blade, but with the grim spectacle of crucifixion, a punishment Rome reserves for its worst enemies. As the crosses rise against the sky, Caesar watches, his face unreadable. He has turned captivity into triumph, but at a cost that hardens his soul. This episode, though brief, burns itself into Rome's gossip. Word spreads of the young Julius who laughed in the face of pirates, who turned their greed into his victory. Back in the Subura, men in taverns raise cups to his name, while senators mutter about his recklessness. For Caesar, the lesson is clear. Audacity is a currency as valuable as gold, and reputation is a weapon forged in moments of crisis. He returns to his studies in Rhodes, but the sea's wild freedom has left its mark. He dreams bigger now, his ambitions stretching beyond the forums marble to the edges of the known world. Yet the Mediterranean's waves whisper a warning. Every victory breeds enemies, and Rome is a city where envy grows as swiftly as fame. As the night wraps you in its quiet embrace, imagine Caesar standing on Rhodes' rocky shore, the stars above mirroring the fire in his heart. He is no longer just a man. He is a story taking shape, a name that will outlast the tides. But what happens when this bold young Roman returns to a city that both admires and fears him? The path to power is paved with risks, and Caesar's next steps will test him in ways even pirates could not foresee. The sun rises over Rome, its golden light spilling across the 7 hills, where the city stirs with the restless energy of ambition. It is the early 60s BCE, and Gaius Julius Caesar, now in his 30s, strides through the forum with a confidence that turns heads. The salt of the Mediterranean still lingers in his memory, the pirate episode a tale now whispered in taverns and senate halls alike. His toga, crisp and white, drapes over a frame lean from travel and trial, but his eyes burn with a purpose that sets him apart. Rome is a chessboard, and Caesar is learning to play it with a master's touch, each move calculated to lift him higher in a city where power is both prize and peril. The Subura's gritty streets are behind him, but their lessons, resilience, cunning, and the art of winning hearts, guide his every step. Caesar's return from Rhodes has sharpened his oratory, his voice now a finely honed blade, capable of swaying crowds or silencing critics. Picture him in the forum, standing atop the rostra, his words weaving through the air like a spell. The crowd, merchants, freedmen, and grizzled veterans, leans in, captivated by his blend of wit and gravitas. He speaks of Rome's glory, of justice for the common man, and though his patrician blood ties him to the elite, his words echo the popular's call for reform. It's a dangerous game, aligning with the people against the Senate's old guard, but Caesar thrives on the edge. He knows that in Rome, loyalty is fleeting, and the mob's love is a tide that must be ridden with care. His climb begins in earnest with the office of quaestor, secured in 69 BCE, which sent him to Hispania. Now back in Rome, he eyes the next rung, the aedileship. In 65 BCE, at 35, he wins the post, a role that demands spectacle as much as governance. The aedile oversees public works and games, and Caesar seizes the chance to etch his name into Rome's heart. Picture the Circus Maximus. It stands packed with thousands, their cheers shaking the earth as chariots thunder past. Caesar spares no expense, borrowing heavily from men like Crassus, Rome's richest financier. Gladiators clash in arenas, their armor flashing under the sun, while exotic beasts, panthers, giraffes, parade through streets lined with awestruck citizens. The Subura glows with torchlight as feasts spill into the night, and Caesar's name is on every tongue. His debts spiral, but he shrugs off the whispers of ruin. To him, gold is merely a means to an end, the adoration of the people. Behind the spectacle, Caesar weaves a web of alliances. Crassus, with his vast wealth, sees potential in this bold young man, offering loans that bind them closer. Pompey, the great general fresh from victories in the East, is another piece on Caesar's board. Picture them at a lavish dinner in a Palatine villa, the air heavy with incense and intrigue. Pompey, broad-shouldered and weathered, speaks of campaigns in far-off lands. Crassus, sharp-eyed, weighs every word for profit. Caesar, younger but no less commanding, steers the conversation, his laughter disarming but his questions probing. He knows these men are rivals as much as allies, and he treads carefully, offering loyalty while guarding his own ambitions. Their pact, informal but binding, will later be known as the First Triumvirate, a shadow government that will shake Rome's foundations. Yet the Senate's optimates, led by men like Cato, watch Caesar with growing unease. His flamboyance, his appeal to the masses, smells of danger to their rigid order. Cato, stern and unyielding, rails against Caesar's excesses in the Senate, his voice echoing off marble walls. "This man courts the mob like a lover," he warns, "and Rome will pay the price." Caesar, undaunted, counters with charm, deflecting criticism with a smile that hides his steel. He knows the optimates fear what they cannot control, and he revels in their discomfort. But every step up the cursus honorum draws new enemies, and Rome's elite are not above using scandal to clip a rising star's wings. Rumors swirl of debts unpaid, of affairs with noblewomen, of bribes slipped into willing hands. Caesar laughs them off, but the whispers linger, like shadows at dusk. His personal life, too, is a balancing act. His marriage to Cornelia, now ended by her death, left him with a daughter, Julia, whom he adores. In 67 BCE, he marries Pompeia, granddaughter of Sulla, a union that ties him to old enemies and new allies. Picture their wedding, a quiet ceremony in a villa overlooking the Tiber, where vows are spoken under the gaze of household gods. But Rome's gossip mills churn, and Pompeia's name soon tangles with scandal, testing Caesar's patience. He divorces her, famously declaring that his wife must be above suspicion, a move that wins him respect but costs him politically. Through it all, his mother Aurelia remains his anchor, her counsel sharp as ever, urging him to keep his eyes on the prize. The consulship, Rome's highest office. As aedile, Caesar's flair for the dramatic extends beyond games. He restores the Appian Way, its stones gleaming under fresh repairs, and erects statues that nod to his divine ancestry. One night, he unveils a gilded statue of Marius, his late uncle and a popular's hero, in the Forum. The act is a calculated jab at the optimates, who revile Marius's memory. The Senate fumes, but the crowd roars approval, and Caesar basks in their cheers. He is playing a long game, building a reputation that will carry him to power or to ruin. By 63 BCE, he secures the prestigious role of Pontifex Maximus, Rome's chief priest, through a mix of bribes and charisma. Picture him in white robes, offering sacrifices at the temple of Jupiter, his voice steady as he invokes the gods. The role grants him a grand residence and a new stage, but it also deepens the Senate's distrust. As the decade closes, Caesar stands at a crossroads. His debts are a mountain, his enemies a growing chorus, but his name shines brighter than ever. The people love him, Crassus backs him, and Pompey's star aligns with his for now. Picture him on the Capitoline Hill, the city sprawling below, its temples aglow in the twilight. He is no longer the hunted exile or the pirate's captive. He is a man Rome cannot ignore. But the higher he climbs, the sharper the knives that await. What happens when a man's ambition outpaces the Republic's fragile bounds, and the city he loves begins to turn against him? As the night deepens, let's follow Caesar into the storm of his destiny, where every triumph carries the seeds of betrayal. The wind howls across the rugged hills of Cisalpine Gaul, carrying the scent of pine and the distant clang of iron. It is 58 BCE, and Gaius Julius Caesar, now 42, stands at the edge of a new frontier, his toga traded for the scarlet cloak of a general. Appointed governor of Gaul, both the Roman province in northern Italy and the untamed lands beyond the Alps, he gazes out over a landscape vast and wild, where tribes speak strange tongues and the forests whisper of resistance. Rome's Senate, wary of his ambition, has granted him this post, perhaps hoping the barbarian frontier will break him. But Caesar sees opportunity where others see exile. Picture him on a hilltop, his lean frame silhouetted against a gray sky, his eyes tracing the horizon where Gaul's rivers glint like veins of silver. This is no mere governorship. It is a canvas for glory, and Caesar is ready to paint it with conquest. Gaul is a patchwork of tribes, Helvetii, Sequani, Aedui, bound by loose alliances and fierce pride. To Rome, they are barbarians, their lands a buffer against northern threats. To Caesar, they are a challenge that will define his legacy. His legions, battle-hardened and loyal, camp along the Rhone, their tents a sea of leather under a restless sky. These men, drawn from Rome's heartlands and beyond, trust their commander's charisma, his promises of plunder, and the fire in his voice. Caesar, ever the orator, walks among them, his words weaving dreams of victory. Picture him by a campfire, his face lit by flickering flames, as he speaks of Rome's destiny to rule the world. His soldiers cheer, their breath clouding in the chill air, but they know the cost. Gaul will not yield easily. The spark of war ignites with the Helvetii, a tribe seeking to migrate west through Roman territory. Their leader, Orgetorix, dreams of a new homeland, but Caesar sees a threat to Rome's borders and a chance to prove his mettle. In spring, as the snows melt and rivers swell, the Helvetii move, a vast caravan of warriors, women, and children, their wagons creaking under the weight of their lives. Caesar, swift and decisive, marches to meet them. Picture the scene. The Rhone's banks, lush with spring grass, become a stage for war. Caesar's engineers, working through the night, destroy a bridge to block the Helvetii's path, their hammers ringing under starlight. When the tribe attempts to ford the river, Caesar's legions strike, their javelins slicing through the morning mist. The battle is brutal, the river stained red, and the Helvetii's dreams of migration crumble under Roman steel. This victory, though swift, is only the beginning. Caesar's ambition stretches beyond one tribe. He learns of unrest among the Gallic tribes, of rivalries that Rome can exploit. The Aedui, Rome's allies, plead for aid against the Sequani and their German allies, led by the formidable Ariovistus. Caesar seizes the chance to expand his campaign, framing it as a defense of Roman honor. Picture him riding through Gaul's rolling hills, his scouts fanning out to map unfamiliar terrain. The land is a tapestry of forests and meadows, dotted with hill forts where warriors sharpen their spears. Caesar, ever the strategist, studies the Gauls' ways, their fierce charges and fluid tactics, so different from Rome's disciplined ranks. He writes dispatches to Rome, his prose sharp and vivid, painting himself as the Republic's shield. These commentarii de bello Gallico, penned in his spare moments, will one day burnish his legend. But for now, they are propaganda, ensuring the Senate cannot ignore his triumphs. The clash with Ariovistus is a test of nerve. The German king, tall and fierce, commands warriors who fear no man. Caesar meets him in the Vosges, where the plains stretch under a summer sky. Picture the tension. Roman legions, their shields locked, face a sea of German spears, the air thick with war cries. Caesar, astride his horse, rallies his men, his voice cutting through the din. "For Rome!" he shouts, and the legions advance, their boots shaking the earth. The battle is fierce, but Caesar's tactics, Flanking maneuvers, disciplined volleys turn the tide. Ariovistus flees, his forces scattered, and Gaul's tribes take note. This Roman is no mere governor. He is a force, relentless and cunning, who bends the world to his will. Yet conquest is not just a matter of swords. Caesar knows the Gauls' hearts must be won, or rebellion will simmer. He negotiates with tribal leaders, offering mercy to those who submit, but his leniency is strategic. Picture him in a chieftain's hall, the air heavy with wood smoke, as he speaks of Rome's protection, his Latin translated by a nervous interpreter. Some tribes bow, others bristle, and Caesar notes every glance, every whisper. He builds forts, secures supply lines, and maps Gaul's rivers and forests with a cartographer's precision. His soldiers, grumbling but loyal, march through mud and rain, their loyalty cemented by Caesar's habit of sharing their hardships. He eats their bread, sleeps in their camps, and remembers their names, a general who fights as one of them. By winter, Caesar retires to Cisalpine Gaul, his mind already on the next campaign. Rome buzzes with tales of his victories, but the Senate remains divided. Cato and his optimates call him reckless, a man who risks Rome's stability for personal glory. Crassus and Pompey, his allies, send gold and praise, but their support is a leash as much as a lifeline. Picture Caesar in a villa, poring over maps by lamplight, his thoughts racing. Gaul is vast, its tribes restless, and every victory breeds new enemies. He knows the Senate watches, waiting for a misstep. As the fire dies and the night grows still, Caesar's dreams are not of rest, but of a world remade in Rome's image and his own. What happens when a man's hunger for glory meets a land that refuses to kneel? As the stars fade, let's follow Caesar deeper into Gaul, where triumph and danger walk hand in hand. The forests of Gaul stretch endlessly under a sky heavy with clouds, their ancient oaks whispering secrets older than Rome itself. It is 57 BCE, and Gaius Julius Caesar, now a seasoned commander in his mid-40s, stands at the heart of his camp, the air sharp with the scent of leather and smoke. His legions, their armor dulled by mud and blood, are a testament to his relentless campaign to subdue Gaul. The victories over the Helvetii and Ariovistus have cemented his reputation, but Gaul is a hydra. Each triumph spawns new resistance. Picture Caesar in his command tent, a map of rivers and hill forts spread before him, his fingers tracing the paths of tribes yet to bow. His face, weathered by years of sun and strain, carries a quiet intensity, for he knows that in this wild land, strategy is as vital as steel. The Gallic Wars are no mere conquest. They are a chess game played across mountains and marshes, and Caesar is its grandmaster. Gaul's tribes are as diverse as they are fierce, from the seafaring Veneti in the west to the warlike Belgae in the north. Each victory requires not just brute force, but a mind that anticipates, adapts, and exploits. Caesar's genius lies in his ability to read the land and its people, turning their strengths against them. Picture his legions marching through a misty dawn, their boots sinking into the sodden earth of Belgic territory. The Belgae, renowned for their courage, unite under leaders like Amberix, their war cries echoing through the forests. Caesar, outnumbered, does not charge blindly. Instead, he builds fortified camps, each a miniature Rome with ramparts and ditches, forcing the enemy to attack on his terms. When the Belgae strike, his legions hold firm, their shields a wall of iron, while archers and slingers rain death from above. The enemy falters, and Caesar's cavalry, recruited from loyal Gallic tribes, sweeps in to seal their fate. His greatest test comes in 52 BCE at Alesia, a battle that will etch his name into the annals of war. The Gallic chieftain Vercingetorix, a young Arvernian with fire in his soul, unites the tribes in a rebellion that threatens to unravel Caesar's gains. Picture Alesia's hilltop fortress, its walls bristling with spears as Vercingetorix rallies his people. Caesar, undaunted, lays siege, encircling the town with a ring of fortifications, miles of trenches, palisades, and towers. His engineers work through the night, their torches flickering like stars, while Caesar rides the lines, his presence a steadying force. But the Gauls are not idle. A massive relief army gathers, outnumbering the Romans. Caesar, ever bold, builds a second ring of defenses, trapping himself between Vercingetorix's fortress and the approaching horde. It is a gamble that could end in annihilation, but Caesar thrives on such risks. The Battle of Alesia is a symphony of chaos and control. Picture the scene. Roman legions, stretched thin, face waves of Gallic warriors, their war horns blaring. Caesar, astride his horse, directs his men with a calm that belies the stakes. He uses the terrain, channeling attackers into kill zones where his ballistae unleash deadly bolts. When the Gauls breach a weak point, Caesar himself leads a counterattack, his scarlet cloak a beacon in the dust. His men, inspired, fight with a ferocity born of loyalty. The relief army falters, Vercingetorix surrenders, and Alesia falls. Picture the moment. Vercingetorix, proud even in defeat, rides out to lay his weapons at Caesar's feet, the silence broken only by the creak of armor and the wind's mournful sigh. Gaul is not yet fully his, but this victory shifts the tide. Caesar's success is not just tactical but human. He knows his men, their fears, their dreams. Picture him walking through the camp at dusk, stopping to share a jest with a grizzled centurion or a nod with a young recruit. He endures their hardships, soggy tents, meager rations earning their devotion. His commentarii, written in crisp, vivid prose, recount each campaign, not as a boast but as a record for Rome's eyes. Sent to the Senate, these dispatches paint him as the Republic's indispensable man, a narrative he crafts with care. Yet he also wins over Gauls, offering citizenship to loyal tribes and sparing defeated foes who swear allegiance. Picture a Gallic chieftain, his furs heavy with rain, clasping Caesar's hand in a Roman villa, their pact sealed over wine. It is a delicate balance, conqueror and conciliator, Roman and ruler of a foreign land. But Rome is never far from his mind. The Senate, led by Cato's unyielding voice, grows wary of his power. Each dispatch from Gaul fuels both admiration and envy. Crassus and Pompey, his triumvirate allies, send support, but their trust frays as Caesar's star rises. Picture him in a rare quiet moment, standing by the Seion River, its waters reflecting a crescent moon. He knows his victories are double-edged. They bring glory but also suspicion. Gaul's conquest is reshaping the world, but it is also reshaping him, hardening his resolve, sharpening his ambition. The Republic's laws, its checks on power, feel distant here, where his word is law. As winter cloaks Gaul in frost, Caesar plans his next campaign, his eyes already on the Rhine and beyond. The cost of conquest weighs heavy. His legions tire, their numbers dwindle, and Gaul's tribes, though battered, still dream of freedom. Picture a Roman soldier, his cloak patched, carving a name into a tree, a silent prayer to return home. Caesar, too, must feel the strain, though he hides it behind his relentless drive. His daughter Julia, married to Pompey to seal their alliance, is a distant light in his thoughts, a reminder of Rome's pull. But Gaul is not yet tamed, and Rome's Senate grows restless. What happens when a man's victories outgrow the republic he serves, and the loyalty of his legions becomes a threat to the state? As the night settles over Gaul's silent hills, let's follow Caesar deeper into this crucible, where every triumph edges him closer to a fateful choice. The winter of 49 BCE cloaks northern Italy in a chill mist, and the Rubicon River, a narrow ribbon of water, glints faintly under a waning moon. Gaius Julius Caesar, now 50, stands on its northern bank, his scarlet cloak pulled tight against the cold. His face, etched with lines from a decade of war, is unreadable, but his eyes burn with a resolve that has conquered Gaul and defied Rome's Senate. Behind him, the 13th Legion waits, their breath clouding in the frosty air, their loyalty a silent force stronger than steel. The Rubicon is no mighty river, but it marks a sacred boundary. To cross it with an army is to defy the Republic, to declare war on its laws. Picture Caesar astride his horse, the water's murmur mingling with the creak of armor, as he weighs a choice that will reshape history. This is the moment where ambition meets destiny, and Caesar stands on its razor's edge. The path to this precipice has been long and fraught. Gaul's conquest, a triumph spanning 8 years, has made Caesar a legend. His legions have subdued tribes from the Atlantic to the Rhine, their victories carved into Rome's imagination through his vivid commentarii. Gold and slaves pour into the city, and Caesar's name is cheered in the forum, yet the Senate grows restless. Cato and his optimates see a man whose power threatens the Republic's fragile balance. They demand he relinquish his command and return to Rome as a private citizen, facing trials for alleged crimes, debts, bribes, and oversteps in Gaul. Picture the Senate's marble halls, where togas swirl and voices clash, Cato's stern warnings met with Pompey's cautious silence. Pompey, once Caesar's ally in the first triumvirate, now drifts toward the optimates, their bond strained by ambition and the death of Julia, Caesar's daughter and Pompey's wife. Caesar, in his Gallic headquarters, receives the Senate's ultimatum with a calm that masks his fury. He knows the truth. To return without his army is to invite ruin. His enemies will prosecute him, strip him of wealth and honor, perhaps exile him again. Picture him pacing a villa in Ravenna, maps and letters scattered across a table, as his officers, Labienus, Antony, wait for his word. The Senate offers no compromise, and Pompey, now Rome's defender, prepares to enforce their will. Caesar's mind, sharp as ever, weighs the stakes. He could submit, preserving the Republic's facade, or he could act, shattering centuries of tradition. The choice is not just political but personal, for Rome is his lifeblood, its streets and gods woven into his soul. The Rubicon becomes his crucible. Legend tells of a night spent in thought, Caesar wrestling with doubt under the stars. Picture him alone, the campfires of his legion flickering in the distance, as he murmurs to the gods, Venus, his divine ancestor, or Mars, god of war. Some say he dreamed of Rome ablaze, others that a vision urged him forward. His words, recorded later, are simple yet seismic. Alia iacta est, the die is cast. At dawn, he mounts his horse, his legion behind him, and crosses the Rubicon's shallow waters. Picture the scene. Soldiers wading through the icy current, their standards held high, the splash of hooves breaking the silence. No trumpets sound, no war cries rise. This is a quiet rebellion, but its ripples will shake the world. Rome learns of the crossing with a mix of dread and awe. The Senate declares Caesar an enemy of the state, and panic grips the city. Picture the forum, usually bustling, now hushed as senators flee south, their families in tow. Pompey, tasked with Rome's defense, hesitates, his forces scattered. Caesar moves swiftly, his legion marching down the Via Flaminia, towns opening their gates to him. His reputation precedes him, Gaul's conqueror, the people's champion, and many see him not as a traitor but a liberator. Picture a small Italian town, its gates flung wide, as farmers and artisans cheer Caesar's arrival, their voices drowning out the Senate's decrees. He offers clemency to those who join him, a calculated mercy that swells his ranks. Yet the crossing is not just a military act, it is a declaration of power. Caesar, by defying the Senate, challenges the Republic's core, the rule of law over individual ambition. His letters to Rome, penned with his usual eloquence, claim he acts to protect his dignity and the people's rights. But beneath the rhetoric lies a truth. Caesar seeks to reshape Rome in his image. Picture him in a commandeered villa, dictating to scribes as his officers report. His plan is bold: march on Rome, seize control, and force the Senate to bend. Pompey, caught off guard, retreats to Greece, taking much of the Senate with him. The city lies open, its temples and markets eerily quiet, waiting for its conqueror. Caesar's march is relentless but disciplined. He avoids plunder, knowing the people's love is his greatest weapon. Picture his legions, weary but resolute, camping under starlit skies, their campfires dotting the Italian countryside. Caesar walks among them, sharing their bread, his laughter easing their fears. He knows the road ahead leads to civil war, a fratricide that will pit Roman against Roman. Pompey, his former ally, now stands as his greatest foe, backed by the Senate's wealth and legions. The Rubicon's waters are behind him, but their echo lingers, a reminder of the line he has crossed. As he nears Rome, the city's walls loom under a blood-red sunset, a portent of the battles to come. The Republic, already fraying, now teeters on collapse. Caesar's act is a spark in a tinderbox, igniting loyalties and rivalries long simmering. His enemies call him a tyrant, his supporters a savior. Picture him pausing on the road, the distant glow of Rome in his sights as he wonders, can a man remake a city without destroying it? The die is cast, but the game is far from won. As the night wraps the world in silence, let's follow Caesar toward the heart of the Republic, where old friendships will break and a new order will rise from the ashes of the old. The Mediterranean sun burns high above the port of Brundisium in early 49 BCE, its light glinting off the waves as Gaius Julius Caesar, now a rebel general, watches his legions board ships. The Rubicon's crossing has set Rome ablaze with panic, and the Senate, led by Pompey, has fled south, then across the sea to Greece. Caesar, at 50, is a figure of relentless energy, his lean frame moving among his men, his voice steady as he urges them onward. Picture the harbor. Sails snap in the wind, oars dip into the azure water, and the creak of timbers mingles with soldiers' murmurs. Rome lies behind him, its empty forum a testament to his audacity, but the war is far from won. Pompey, once his ally, now his rival, gathers legions in the east, backed by the Senate's gold and Rome's old guard. This is no distant campaign in Gaul. This is civil war, Roman against Roman, and Caesar's heart must ache even as his resolve hardens. The pursuit of Pompey is a race against time. Caesar's forces, though loyal, are stretched thin, their supplies meager after the swift march through Italy. Pompey, with his vast resources and naval supremacy, holds the advantage, his legions swelling with recruits from Greece and Asia. Picture Caesar in a commandeered villa, maps spread before him as he plots his next move. His officers mark Antony, bold and brash. Labienus, his trusted lieutenant from Gaul, argue strategy, their voices rising in the lamplit room. Caesar's plan is audacious. Cross the Adriatic, strike at Pompey's heartland, and force a decisive battle. The sea is treacherous, patrolled by Pompey's fleet, but Caesar thrives on risk. In January, his ships slip through the blockade, landing in Epirus under cover of night. Picture the soldiers wading ashore, their armor sodden, as Caesar rallies them with a promise. We fight for Rome's future. The campaign in Greece is a grueling dance of maneuver and starvation. Pompey, cautious and methodical, avoids direct confrontation, knowing time favors him. Caesar's legions march through rugged hills, their boots crunching on frost-covered stones as supplies dwindle. Picture the men, their faces gaunt, sharing meager rations of barley and roots. Caesar, ever the leader, eats what they eat, his presence a spark that keeps despair at bay. He writes to Rome, his letters proclaiming loyalty to the Republic, but the Senate brands him a traitor. In the Forum, his supporters, tribunes and populars, face exile or worse, while Cato's voice thunders, calling for his destruction. Yet Caesar's charisma holds his army together, their loyalty forged in Gaul's crucible now tested in this fratricidal war. The turning point comes at Dyrrhachium in 48 BCE. Pompey, entrenched along the coast, builds fortifications to trap Caesar's smaller force. Picture the scene. Roman legions facing each other across earthworks, their standards eerily familiar. Caesar, outnumbered, probes for weaknesses, his men digging counter-trenches under moonlight. The battle is fierce, with javelins flying and swords clashing, but Pompey's defenses hold. Caesar, for once, is forced to retreat, his army bloodied. Picture him riding through the chaos, his scarlet cloak streaked with dust, as he shouts orders to save his men from rout. The loss stings, but Caesar's mind is already turning, calculating. He withdraws inland, luring Pompey to the plains of Pharsalus, where the land favors his smaller, disciplined force. August 9, 48 BCE, dawns clear over Pharsalus, the air heavy with the scent of grass and impending bloodshed. Caesar's army, perhaps 22,000 strong, faces Pompey's 40,000, a force bolstered by senators and Eastern allies. Picture the battlefield. Roman legions arrayed in tight ranks, their shields gleaming as Pompey's cavalry, led by Labienus, now defected to his side, prepares to charge. Caesar, calm amidst the tension, adjusts his lines, hiding a reserve of infantry to counter the cavalry. When the horns sound, the clash is thunderous. Pompey's horsemen sweep forward, but Caesar's reserves spring from ambush, breaking their charge. The legions advance, their pila raining down and Pompey's lines waver. Picture Caesar, astride his horse, directing the assault, his voice cutting through the din. "For Rome!" His men, inspired, press forward and Pompey's army collapses, soldiers fleeing into the hills. Pompey, the great general, escapes the slaughter, his dreams of triumph shattered. Picture him riding east, his once-proud retinue now a handful of loyalists, as he seeks refuge in Egypt. Caesar, relentless, pursues, his ships cutting through the Mediterranean's waves. In Egypt, he learns of Pompey's fate. Betrayed by the boy king Ptolemy XIII's advisors, Pompey is murdered on the shore, his head severed as a gift to Caesar. Picture Caesar in Alexandria, standing by the sea, as Ptolemy's men present the grim trophy. His reaction is not triumph but sorrow, for Pompey was his friend, his daughter's husband, a Roman whose blood stains the Republic's soul. He orders the head buried with honor, a gesture that masks his relief. One rival is gone, but the war continues. Pharsalus is a turning point, but not an end. The Senate's remnants scatter, Cato rallying resistance in Africa, while Pompey's sons gather forces in Spain. Caesar, now master of the East, consolidates his power, but the cost weighs heavy. Picture his legions, weary and far from home, camping under foreign stars. The civil war has torn Rome's heart, pitting brother against brother, and Caesar, though victorious, knows the Republic cannot be mended by force alone. His mind-faced ambition burns brighter than ever, but so does the Senate's defiance. As he sails for Egypt, the weight of his choices presses harder. Savior or destroyer, his path is set. What happens when a man who has broken the Republic's laws faces a world fractured by his own hand? As the night deepens, let's sail with Caesar to Egypt, where a queen awaits, and a new chapter of destiny begins to unfold. The Nile River glints like molten gold under the Egyptian sun, its waters lapping against the marble quays of Alexandria in late 48 BCE. Gaius Julius Caesar, now 50, steps ashore, his boots leaving faint prints on the sun-warmed stone. The civil war has carried him far from Rome's familiar hills, across the Mediterranean to this ancient city of wonders, where the Pharos lighthouse towers over a harbor teeming with ships. His victory at Pharsalus has broken Pompey's army, but the news of his old rival's murder in Egypt, a severed head offered as a grotesque gift, has left a bitter taste. Picture Caesar standing on the quay, his scarlet cloak catching the breeze as he gazes at Alexandria's palaces, their white walls gleaming against the azure sky. He has come to secure Egypt's wealth and loyalty for Rome, but fate is about to weave a new thread into his story, one spun by a queen whose ambition matches his own. Egypt is a land of intrigue, its throne contested by the young Ptolemy XIII and his sister Cleopatra VII, siblings locked in a bitter struggle for power. Caesar, as Rome's consul, seeks to mediate, but his arrival stirs the court's fragile balance. Ptolemy's advisors, led by the cunning Pothinus, greet him with forced smiles, their gifts of gold and wine masking their fear of Rome's might. Picture the royal palace, its halls adorned with lotus columns and mosaics, where incense hangs heavy in the air. Caesar, battle-worn but commanding, demands Egypt's allegiance and payment of debts owed to Rome. Yet Ptolemy, a boy of 13, is a puppet, his advisors plotting to keep their grip on power. Cleopatra, exiled to the desert, is a name whispered only in shadows until she makes her move. The story of her arrival is legendary. Picture a quiet evening, the palace hushed as Caesar retires to his chambers. A servant delivers a rolled carpet, unremarkable but heavy, and as it unfurls, a young woman emerges, her dark eyes locking onto Caesar's. Cleopatra, barely 21, has risked everything to reach him, smuggled past guards in a daring bid for his favor. Her beauty is striking, but it is her mind, sharp, multilingual, and bold, that captivates him. Picture them talking into the night, their voices low, as she speaks of Egypt's gods, her vision for its future, and her claim to the throne. Caesar, no stranger to ambition, sees in her a kindred spirit, a ruler who, like him, dares to defy the odds. Their alliance is sealed not just by politics, but by a spark of mutual fascination, a romance that will echo through history. Caesar's decision to back Cleopatra sets Egypt ablaze. Ptolemy's court, outraged, rallies against him, and Alexandria's streets erupt in riots. Picture the city under siege. Roman soldiers, outnumbered, fortify the palace as mobs hurl stones and fire. Caesar, ever the strategist, holds his ground, his legions fighting with the discipline forged in Gaul. He burns part of the harbor's fleet to prevent its use against him, and flames, perhaps by accident, lick at the library of Alexandria, a loss that will haunt scholars for centuries. Picture him on the palace roof, the city's chaos below, as Cleopatra stands beside him, her resolve unshaken. Their partnership is a gamble. She offers Egypt's grain and wealth, he her throne, but the cost is a war neither fully anticipated. The conflict, known as the Alexandrian War, stretches into 47 BCE. Caesar, with only a small force, faces Ptolemy's army and its allies. Picture the battles. Roman legions clashing with Egyptian spearmen along the Nile's banks, their shouts drowned by the river's ceaseless flow. Reinforcements arrive, led by Mithridates of Pergamon, and Caesar strikes decisively at the Battle of the Nile, routing Ptolemy's forces. The boy king drowns in the river, his golden armor pulling him under, and Cleopatra emerges as Egypt's sole ruler. Picture her coronation, her crown gleaming as she offers thanks to Isis, while Caesar watches, his mind already turning to Rome. Their bond deepens, and soon Cleopatra bears him a son, Caesarion, a child who binds Rome and Egypt in blood. Yet this victory is not without shadows. Caesar's prolonged stay in Egypt, his dalliance with a foreign queen, stirs unease in Rome. Picture the Forum, where senators mutter of a general seduced by Eastern decadence, his loyalty to the republic in question. Cato, in Africa, rallies the Senate's remnants, branding Caesar a tyrant bewitched by a sorceress. Even his allies, Antony, Crassus's son, grow restless, their letters urging his return. Cleopatra, too, faces her own challenges. Egypt's priests and nobles resent her Roman protector, and whispers of rebellion simmer. Picture Caesar sailing the Nile with her, their barge adorned with silks, as they discuss empires, hers ancient, his rising. He dreams of a world where East and West unite, but Rome's call is relentless. As he prepares to leave, Caesar knows Egypt has changed him. Cleopatra's ambition, her vision of a divine ruler, plants seeds of ideas that Rome's republic cannot contain. Picture him standing on Alexandria's shore, the sea stretching before him, as he bids farewell to the queen who has captured his heart. He leaves her secure on her throne, but the cost of this alliance will follow him. Rome awaits, its Senate defiant, its people divided. His triumphs in Gaul and Egypt have made him untouchable, yet they have also made him a target. As the stars rise over the Nile, what happens when a man who has tasted the power of kings returns to a city that fears them? Let's follow Caesar back to Rome, where the weight of his choices will spark a fire that could consume the Republic. The Roman Forum glows under the midday sun of 46 BCE, its temples and basilicas casting long shadows across the cobblestones. Gaius Julius Caesar, now 54, strides through the heart of the city, his presence commanding silence from the bustling crowds. The Civil War has left scars, empty stalls where merchants once haggled, statues toppled in the chaos of his return. But Caesar's victories in Egypt and beyond have made him Rome's master. Declared dictator, first for a year, then for 10, he wields power unmatched in the Republic's history. Picture him ascending the rostra, his toga edged with purple, as the people cheer, their voices a tide of adoration and fear. He has conquered Gaul, tamed Egypt, and crushed Pompey's allies in Africa and Spain, yet Rome itself remains his greatest challenge. The Republic is a fractured thing, its institutions crumbling, and Caesar, with a mind as sharp as ever, seeks to reshape it in his image. Rome in 46 BCE is a city of contrasts, grandeur marred by decay, wealth shadowed by poverty. The Senate, once the Republic's backbone, is a husk, its ranks thinned by war and exile. Picture its marble chamber, half empty, where senators glance nervously at Caesar, their togas pristine but their influence faded. The people, weary of conflict, hunger for stability, and Caesar knows their love is his strength. His reforms begin with the practical, born of a soldier's eye for order. The Julian calendar, his boldest innovation, replaces Rome's chaotic lunar system. Picture astronomers and priests, their scrolls unrolled in a torchlit hall, as Caesar consults with them, his questions precise. The new calendar, with 365 days and a leap year, aligns Rome's time with the sun's rhythm, a gift to posterity that will outlast empires. Temples adopt it, farmers sow by it, and even the Gauls, now under Roman sway, mark their days by Caesar's design. Land reform follows, a nod to the populars whose ideals he champions. Veterans of his legions, hardened by years in Gaul, receive plots in Italy and beyond, their loyalty rewarded with soil. Picture a grizzled soldier, his armor traded for a plow, standing on a hillside granted by Caesar, the earth rich under his hands. To ease Rome's crowded slums, Caesar resettles the poor to colonies in Greece and Africa, their ships sailing from Ostia under his banners. He rebuilds the Forum, erecting the Basilica Julia, its columns rising like a promise of renewal. Picture the construction, scaffolds creaking, workers hauling marble, as Caesar inspects the site, his vision of a grander Rome taking shape. The Subura's alleys, once his childhood haunt, see new aqueducts, their waters easing the city's thirst. His reforms touch the Republic's heart, its governance. The Senate's ranks swell with his appointees, loyalists from Gaul, even freedmen, diluting the old aristocracy's power. Picture Cato, now dead by his own hand in Africa, his ghost haunting the optimates who mutter of tyranny. Caesar streamlines the courts, rooting out corruption, and expands citizenship to loyal provinces, binding the empire closer to Rome. His decrees, issued from the Pontifex Maximus's residence, are law, yet he consults the Senate, maintaining a facade of tradition. Picture him in a Senate meeting, his voice calm but firm as he proposes debt relief for the poor, his eyes noting every senator's reaction. Some nod, others bristle, their loyalty a fragile thing. Yet his reforms stir unrest. The optimates, led by men like Cicero, see a republic unraveling. Picture Cicero in his villa, penning letters that lament Caesar's power, his words sharp but cautious. The people cheer Caesar's generosity, free grain, lavish games, but whispers of king begin to circulate, a word Rome dreads. His statues, crowned with laurels, stand in temples beside the gods, and some say he aspires to divinity. Picture a festival in the Circus Maximus, where Caesar's chariot races thrill the crowd, their roars shaking the stands. A diadem, offered by a supporter, is placed on his statue. He removes it, but the gesture lingers, a spark in a city primed for fire. His adoption of purple robes, a nod to Eastern kings, fuels the rumors, and even his allies, Antony, bold and loyal, grow uneasy. Cleopatra's arrival in Rome in 46 BCE deepens the tension. Picture her villa across the Tiber, its gardens lush with Egyptian blooms, where she holds court with Caesarion, their son, at her side. Her presence, regal and foreign, fascinates and alarms Rome. Senators visit, drawn by curiosity, but whisper of a queen seducing their dictator. Picture Caesar hosting her at a banquet, their laughter mingling with the clink of goblets, as senators watch, their smiles tight. Cleopatra's vision of a united Rome and Egypt stirs Caesar's dreams, but it alienates those who see Rome as a republic, not a monarchy. His reforms, meant to strengthen, begin to fracture loyalties, and the Senate's halls hum with quiet plots. Caesar's mind, though, is restless. Picture him late at night, pacing his residence, scrolls of his commentary scattered about. He plans campaigns, Parthia perhaps, to rival Alexander's glory, but Rome's unrest pulls him back. His health, once iron, shows cracks. Seizures, whispered to be epilepsy, strike without warning. Yet he pushes forward, his energy unyielding, as if racing against time. His reforms are a bridge to a new Rome, but they tread on sacred traditions. The people love him, his legions would die for him, but the Senate's daggers are sharpening. Picture a winter evening, the Forum cloaked in fog, as Caesar gazes at his city, its temples aglow. He has given Rome order, but at what cost? As the stars emerge, what happens when a man's vision for an empire clashes with a republic's soul? Let's linger in Rome's shadowed heart, where whispers of betrayal are growing louder. The Roman Forum lies hushed under a winter moon in early 44 BCE, its temples casting ghostly shadows across the cobblestones. Gaius Julius Caesar, now 55, moves through the city with the weight of power on his shoulders, his purple-edged toga a stark contrast to the gray dawn. Declared dictator perpetuo, dictator for life, he is Rome's unchallenged master, his reforms reshaping the republic into something new, something his enemies fear smells of monarchy. The cheers of the people still echo from the Circus Maximus, where his games dazzle, but in the Senate's marble halls, a different sound grows, the low murmur of conspiracy. Picture Caesar standing on the Capitoline Hill, Rome's 7 hills sprawling below, their lights flickering like stars. He has conquered empires, tamed rivers, and rewritten time itself. But now, as the Ides of March loom, he faces a foe he cannot outmaneuver, betrayal from within. Rome is a city of uneasy splendor. Caesar's reforms, land for veterans, a new calendar, expanded citizenship, have brought stability, but they have also sown discord among the elite. The Senate, once the Republic's heart, is now a shadow of itself, swollen with Caesar's loyalists yet seething with those who cling to tradition. Picture the Curia, its benches filled with togas, where senators like Cicero speak of liberty while casting wary glances at Caesar's empty chair. Cicero, ever the orator, pens letters lamenting the Republic's decay, his words sharp but guarded, for Caesar's spies are everywhere. The Optimates, led by men like Cassius Longinus, a lean, sharp-eyed senator with a grudge from the Civil War, whisper of a Rome without Caesar. Cassius, who fought for Pompey and was grudgingly pardoned, sees in Caesar not a savior, but a tyrant dismantling the Republic's sacred laws. The spark of conspiracy ignites in quiet corners, villas on the Palatine, shadowed porticos in the Forum. Picture a late-night meeting, lamps flickering, as Cassius gathers allies. Gaius Trebonius, a former legate, Decimus Brutus, a trusted officer, and Marcus Brutus, a man whose name carries the weight of Rome's founding hero. Brutus is the key, a figure torn between loyalty and principle. Picture him in his garden, the air heavy with jasmine, as he wrestles with his conscience. His mother, Servilia, was Caesar's lover, and Caesar has favored him with offices and honors, yet Brutus's heart beats for the Republic's ideals. Cassius, with a serpent's tongue, plays on this, whispering of tyranny, of a Rome enslaved by one man's ambition. "We are not born to kneel," he says, and Brutus, his brow furrowed, begins to listen. Caesar, though, is not blind to the unrest. His spies, woven into Rome's fabric, bring tales of discontent, but he dismisses them with a wave. Picture him in his residence, the Domus Publica, poring over plans for a Parthian campaign, his mind on distant deserts rather than the knives at home. His health falters, seizures strike, leaving him pale and shaken, but his will is iron. He refuses a bodyguard, saying, "Better to die once than live in fear." His wife, Calpurnia, pleads with him to heed warnings, a soothsayer's cry of "Beware the Ides of March," dreams of blood and omens, but Caesar laughs, his confidence bordering on hubris. Picture her, her eyes wide with fear, clutching his arm in their lamplit chamber, her voice trembling as she recounts a nightmare of his fall. He soothes her, but the words linger, a shadow in his mind. Cleopatra's presence in Rome fuels the conspirators' fire. Picture her across the Tiber, in a villa lush with Egyptian splendor, where she hosts senators with wine and wit. Her son, Caesarion, toddles at her side, a living symbol of Caesar's tie to a foreign crown. The Senate resents her influence, her regal air a reminder of kingship, a word that chills Roman blood. Rumors swirl that Caesar plans to move the capital to Alexandria, or to declare himself king with Caesarion as heir. Picture a senator, his toga stained with wine, muttering to Cassius at a banquet. He wears purple like a monarch, and she whispers in his ear. The conspirators, now numbering over 60, see their chance. Caesar's power, unchecked, threatens the Republic's soul. They plot in secret, their meetings cloaked in the guise of friendship, their daggers hidden in the folds of their togas. The plan takes shape as March nears. The Senate will meet on the Ides, in the theater of Pompey, a grand complex built by Caesar's fallen rival. Picture the conspirators, their faces tense, rehearsing their roles. Trebonius to distract Antony, Brutus to strike the first blow, others to ensure no escape. They choose the Senate for its symbolism. Caesar will fall where the Republic's laws were made. Yet doubt gnaws at them. Picture Brutus pacing his villa, his wife Portia, Cato's daughter, urging him on, her own resolve steeled by the Republic's cause. The conspirators swear oaths by Jupiter, their hands clasped over a flickering altar, but fear lingers. What if Caesar suspects? What if the people who love him rise in fury? Caesar, meanwhile, prepares for war, his mind on Parthia's golden sands. Picture him dictating orders, his scribes scribbling as he plans to avenge Crassus's defeat. His triumphs, Gallic, Egyptian, African, are celebrated with parades, but each statue raised in his honor sharpens the conspirators' resolve. A crown offered at the Lupercalia festival, which he publicly refuses, only deepens the suspicion. Picture the crowd, roaring as Antony holds the diadem aloft, and Caesar, with Constantino's a smile, pushes it away, yet the moment lingers, a spark in a city ready to burn. The Ides approach, and Rome holds its breath. What happens when the man who holds an empire in his hands faces the blades of those he trusts? As the night wraps you in its quiet embrace, let's step into the shadow of the Ides, where Caesar's fate hangs by a thread. The morning of March 15, 44 BCE, dawns cool and clear over Rome, the sky a pale blue streaked with wisps of cloud. The theater of Pompey, its marble arches gleaming, stands ready for a Senate meeting, its vast complex a monument to a fallen rival now repurposed for Caesar's glory. Gaius Julius Caesar, 55 and dictator for life, prepares to attend, his mind already on distant Parthia, where he plans to lead his legions. Picture him in the Domus Publica, his residence as Pontifex Maximus, as he adjusts his purple-edged toga, the fabric heavy with the weight of power. His wife, Calpurnia, clings to him, her face pale from a night of troubled dreams, visions of blood and falling statues. "Stay home," she pleads, her voice trembling, recounting the soothsayer's warning. "Beware the Ides of March." Caesar, his smile gentle but firm, brushes off her fears, his confidence a shield against omens. Yet as he steps into the morning light, Rome's air feels charged, as if the gods themselves hold their breath. The city stirs with its usual clamor, merchants hawking wares, priests chanting in temples, but beneath the surface, a current of unease flows. The conspirators, over 60 strong, have chosen this day, this place to strike. Picture them gathering in the theater of Pompey's portico, their togas concealing daggers, their faces schooled into calm. Marcus Brutus, his brow furrowed, stands among them, his heart torn between loyalty to Caesar and duty to the Republic. Cassius, lean and sharp-eyed, whispers final instructions, while Decimus Brutus, a trusted friend of Caesar, ensures the plan's precision. They are senators, generals, men of honor, yet today they are assassins, bound by an oath to save Rome from a man they call tyrant. The theater's curia, a temporary Senate chamber, awaits, its benches arranged in a semicircle, a stage for betrayal. Caesar's journey to the Senate is slow, marked by omens that nag at his resolve. Picture him passing through the forum, where a seer, Spurina, repeats his warning, his voice lost in the crowd's din. A note, thrust into Caesar's hand by a loyalist, names the conspirators, but he tucks it away unread, his mind on the day's agenda. The people cheer as he passes, their love for their champion undimmed, yet some whisper of crowns and kingship, their voices tinged with doubt. At the theater, Mark Antony, Caesar's loyal lieutenant, is intercepted by Trebonius, drawn into a conversation to keep him from the chamber. Picture Antony, his broad shoulders tense, sensing something amiss but too late to act. The trap is set, and Caesar walks into it alone. Inside the curia, the senators rise as Caesar enters, his presence commanding despite the faint limp of recent seizures. Picture the chamber, marble walls, a statue of Pompey looming, its shadow falling across the floor. Caesar takes his seat, a gilded chair that marks his power, and the session begins. But the air is thick with tension, the senators' greetings too eager, their eyes darting. Cimber, one of the conspirators, approaches with a petition, a pretext to draw close. Others crowd around, their togas rustling, hands hidden. Then, the signal. Cimber grabs Caesar's shoulder and a dagger flashes. Picture the moment. Caesar, startled, rises, only to feel the first blade pierce his flesh. He fights, his strength surprising for his age, but more blades come, a flurry of steel. "Et tu, brute!" he is said to cry, seeing Brutus's dagger among hollowed out, his voice a whisper of betrayal as he falls, blood pooling on the marble floor. The attack is swift and merciless. 23 wounds, some say, mark Caesar's body, each a testament to the Senate's fear of his power. Picture the chaos. Senators fleeing, their shouts echoing as Caesar collapses, his blood staining Pompey's statue's base. The conspirators, their hands red, scatter, some to rally support, others to hide. Antony, bursting in too late, kneels by his friend, his grief raw. The forum erupts in confusion as news spreads, the people torn between shock and rage. Picture the streets, torches flaring as crowds gather, some weeping for their hero, others cheering the Republic's salvation. The conspirators proclaim liberty restored, but their act has shattered Rome's fragile peace, setting brother against brother in a city now leaderless. Caesar's body lies in state, his face pale, his toga crimson. Picture the Domus Publica, where Calpurnia weeps, her warnings unheeded, while Cleopatra, across the Tiber, learns of her lover's fate, her dreams of a united empire crumbling. The Senate, divided, scrambles to assert control, but the vacuum of power yawns wide. Brutus and Cassius flee east, hoping to muster legions, while Antony vows vengeance, his loyalty to Caesar a fire that will burn Rome. The Ides have passed, but their shadow lingers, a wound in the Republic's heart. Picture the forum at dusk, its stones silent, as torches flicker and the city mourns its fallen son. What happens when the man who held Rome together is gone, and his legacy becomes a spark for chaos? As the night deepens, let's step into the aftermath, where Rome's fate hangs in the balance. The Roman Forum lies silent under a blood-red sunset on March 16, 44 BCE, its stones still stained with the chaos of the Ides. Gaius Julius Caesar, the man who conquered Gaul, loved a queen and reshaped Rome, is dead, his body borne from the theater of Pompey to the Domus Publica, where mourners gather. Picture the scene. Torches flicker in the dusk, their light casting shadows on Caesar's lifeless form, his toga draped over wounds that speak of betrayal. The city, once vibrant with his presence, now teeters on the edge of anarchy. The people who cheered his triumphs waver between grief and rage, their voices rising in the Subura's alleys and the Palatine's villas. The Senate, fractured by fear and ambition, scrambles to reclaim control, but Caesar's shadow looms larger in death than in life. Rome is a tinderbox, and the sparks of his legacy are about to ignite a new fire. The conspirators, led by Marcus Brutus and Gaius Cassius, proclaim the Republic restored, their daggers cleansed of Caesar's blood but not of its consequences. Picture them in the forum, standing atop the rostra, their togas pristine as they shout of liberty, their words echoing off silent temples. Yet the crowd is restless, their love for Caesar deeper than the Senate's ideals. Brutus, his voice steady but his heart heavy, speaks of saving Rome from tyranny, but his noble lineage and reasoned pleas falter against the mob's grief. Picture a woman, her face streaked with tears, hurling insults from the crowd, her cry taken up by others. "Caesar was our father." The conspirators, sensing the tide turning, retreat to the Capitoline Hill, barricading themselves as Rome's streets boil with unrest. Mark Antony, Caesar's loyal lieutenant, emerges as the pivot of this chaos. Picture him in the Domus Publica, kneeling by Caesar's body, his broad shoulders shaking with grief and fury. At 40, Antony is a soldier's soldier, his charisma rivaling Caesar's, his loyalty unshaken. He seizes Caesar's will, a document that will become a weapon. At the public funeral, held days later in the Forum, Antony ascends the rostra, Caesar's bloodied toga in his hands. Picture the scene. Thousands pack the square, their wails rising as Antony unveils the will, revealing Caesar's gifts, gardens, gold, and 75 drachmas for every citizen. His oration, a masterpiece of grief and guile, turns the crowd against the conspirators. "Here was a Caesar," he cries, pointing to the wounds, "when comes such another?" The mob, inflamed, riots, burning benches and hunting the assassins' homes. Brutus and Cassius flee east, their dream of a restored republic crumbling. The power vacuum spawns a new struggle. Picture the Senate, its marble chamber half empty, as senators debate amidst fear of civil war. Cicero, the voice of caution, urges compromise, but his words are drowned by ambition. Caesar's heir, named in his will, is a surprise. Gaius Octavius, an 18-year-old grandnephew, now called Octavian. Picture him arriving in Rome, slight and pale, his eyes sharp with a mind that belies his youth. He claims Caesar's name and legacy, rallying veterans who fought in Gaul. Antony, wary of this boy, underestimates him, focusing instead on consolidating power. Picture their tense meeting in a villa, Antony's booming voice clashing with Octavian's quiet resolve as they vie for Caesar's mantle. The Senate, desperate, plays them against each other, granting Antony command in Gaul while offering Octavian legitimacy. Yet Rome's wounds run deep. Cleopatra, across the Tiber, learns of Caesar's death and flees with Caesarion, her dreams of a Roman-Egyptian empire shattered. Picture her barge sailing down the Nile, her eyes fixed on a horizon now uncertain, her son a reminder of a love lost to daggers. In Rome, the people erect altars to Caesar, some whispering of his divinity, a man too great for mortal bounds. The Senate, pressured, deifies him, naming him Divus Julius, his statue placed among the gods. Picture a temple, its altar smoking with offerings as priests chant his name, a cult that will outlast the Republic. But deification cannot quell the chaos. Antony and Octavian, uneasy allies, form the second triumvirate with Lepidus, a lesser figure, to hunt the conspirators and restore order. The triumvirate's rule is brutal. Picture Rome's streets, where proscription lists name enemies, senators, knights, even Cicero, marked for death. Their heads line the forum, a grim echo of Caesar's fate. Brutus and Cassius in the east raise legions, their cause fading but defiant. Picture them in Asia Minor, their camps sprawling under starlit skies as they prepare to face Antony and Octavian at Philippi. The Republic's ideals, which they killed to preserve, slip further away, drowned in blood and ambition. Caesar's legacy, his reforms, his vision of a stronger Rome, lives on but twisted by those who inherit it. Picture Octavian, standing on a hill, his gaze cold as he studies maps, already dreaming of a power greater than Caesar's. Rome, in this moment, is a city unmoored, its heart torn by the loss of its greatest son. Picture the Tiber at dusk, its waters reflecting a city in turmoil, as torches flare and voices cry for vengeance or liberty. Caesar's death has not restored the Republic but fractured it, setting the stage for empire. His name, now divine, echoes in the prayers of the people, but his dream of a united Rome lies in the hands of men who will wield it for their own ends. As the stars rise, what happens when a man's legacy becomes a battleground, and the city he loved turns on itself? Let's linger in Rome's shadowed heart, where the seeds of empire are sown amidst the ashes of the Republic. The Roman Forum glows softly under the twilight of 42 BCE, its temples and arches bathed in the fading light of a world transformed. The wounds of Caesar's death still bleed, not in blood, but in the chaos of a republic unraveling. The second triumvirate, Mark Antony, Octavian, and Lepidus, rules with an iron grip, their proscription lists staining Rome's streets with the blood of senators and knights. Yet above the clamor, the name of Gaius Julius Caesar, now Divus Julius, the divine Julius, echoes in the chants of priests and the prayers of the people. Picture a small altar in the Forum, its marble etched with his name, where citizens offer flowers and wine, their whispers mingling with the smoke of sacrifice. Caesar, the man who crossed the Rubicon and loved a queen, is no longer mortal. He is a god, his legacy a flame that both illuminates and consumes Rome. As the stars emerge, his shadow stretches far beyond the city, shaping an empire yet to be born. The Battle of Philippi, fought in October 42 BCE, marks the end of the conspirators' dream. Picture the plains of Macedonia, where Brutus and Cassius face Antony and Octavian's legions. The clash is brutal, Roman steel against Roman steel, the air thick with dust and cries. Brutus, his heart heavy with the Republic's fading ideals, fights bravely but falls, his sword beside him as he takes his own life. Cassius, too, meets his end, his vision of liberty crushed under the triumvirate's boots. Picture Antony, his armor splattered, standing over the battlefield, his triumph bitter, for the Republic he swore to avenge is slipping away. Octavian, young and calculating, watches from a distance, his mind already on Rome's future, not its past. The conspirators' defeat seals Caesar's posthumous victory, but it also clears the path for new ambitions, new rivalries. Octavian, now Caesar's adopted son and heir, begins to wield his legacy with a precision his father never mastered. Picture him in Rome, barely 21, his slight frame dwarfed by the Senate's marble halls, yet his voice carries a quiet authority. He takes the name Gaius Julius Caesar Octavianus, linking himself to the divine hero, and builds a temple to Divus Julius in the Forum, its columns rising where Caesar's body was burned. The people, still mourning their champion, flock to it, their offerings piling high. Picture a widow, her shawl worn, placing a coin at the altar, whispering thanks for Caesar's grain doles. Octavian, watching, understands the power of this cult. Caesar's divinity is a tool, a bridge to his own ascent. He navigates Rome's politics with a care Caesar lacked, balancing the Senate's pride with the people's love. Antony, meanwhile, turns east, his heart drawn to Cleopatra and the wealth of Egypt. Picture him in Alexandria, his laughter echoing in her palace, where lotus columns frame starlit banquets. Cleopatra, now in her late 20s, sees in Antony a new partner to revive her dreams of empire, dreams once shared with Caesar. Their alliance, sealed by love and ambition, births twins, a boy and girl who carry Caesar's blood through their mother. Yet Antony's loyalty to Rome frays, his actions, donning Eastern robes, granting lands to Cleopatra, stoking fears of a new monarchy. Picture senators in Rome, their togas gathered, muttering of Antony's betrayal while Octavian fans their discontent, his letters sharp with warnings of a Roman seduced by a queen. The triumvirate splinters, Lepidus sidelined, as Octavian and Antony vie for supremacy. Picture Rome's streets, where rival factions clash, their graffiti scrawling Caesar's name as a rallying cry. Octavian, in Italy, builds his power, recruiting Caesar's veterans and reforming the army. His propaganda paints Antony as a traitor, while he himself is Caesar's true heir, the son of a god. The Julian calendar, Caesar's gift, ticks on, its days marking the slow death of the Republic. Picture farmers in Gaul, now Roman citizens, sowing by its rhythm, their loyalty tied to Caesar's name. His reforms, land grants, citizenship, infrastructure, bind the empire closer, their benefits enduring even as his enemies fall. By 31 BCE, the struggle culminates at Actium, where Octavian's fleet faces Antony and Cleopatra's armada off Greece's coast. Picture the sea, its waves churning under a blazing sun, as ships ram and burn. Octavian, guided by Agrippa's genius, outmaneuvers Antony, whose forces falter as Cleopatra's ships withdraw. Antony follows, his heart torn, and their defeat is sealed. Picture them fleeing to Egypt, their dreams of empire shattered as Octavian pursues, relentless. In Alexandria, Antony falls on his sword, and Cleopatra, refusing to be Octavian's trophy, chooses death by asp. Picture her final moments, her crown askew, as she whispers to Caesar's memory, their son Caesarion soon to fall to Octavian's orders. Octavian, now sole ruler, becomes Augustus, Rome's first emperor. Picture him in the Senate, his toga plain but his power absolute, as he crafts a new order from Caesar's ashes. The Republic is gone, its ideals buried with Brutus, but Caesar's vision, a unified empire, a Rome eternal, lives in Augustus's Pax Romana. His statues, now divine, stand in every province, his name a prayer on countless lips. Picture a merchant in Hispania, offering incense to Divus Julius, or a soldier in Syria, swearing by Caesar's star. His legacy is no longer just Rome's, it is the world's, a foundation for centuries of empire. Yet this legacy is bittersweet. Picture the Forum at night, its altars aglow, as Rome dreams under Caesar's shadow. He sought to save the Republic, but birthed an empire. his reforms enduring but his republic lost. As the stars wheel above, what happens when a man's divinity outlives his dreams and his name becomes both a blessing and a curse? Let's drift toward the final chapter, where Caesar's myth takes root, echoing through time to whisper in our dreams. The Roman Forum lies hushed under a starlit sky, its marble columns glowing faintly as the city dreams. It is now 27 BCE, and Rome is no longer a republic but an empire, its heart beating to the rhythm of Augustus, once Octavian, the heir who turned Caesar's legacy into a throne. The altar to Divus Julius stands at the Forum's heart, its offerings of flowers and wine a testament to a man who became a god. Picture a lone citizen, his cloak drawn against the night's chill, pausing to whisper a prayer to the divine Julius, his name a bridge between mortal ambition and eternal myth. Gaius Julius Caesar, the boy from the Subura, the conqueror of Gaul, the lover of Cleopatra, is gone. Yet his presence lingers, in Rome's laws, its calendar, its very soul. As the stars wheel above, his story stretches beyond the Tiber, weaving itself into the fabric of time, a tale that speaks to us even now as we drift toward sleep. Caesar's legacy is a tapestry of triumphs and tragedies, its threads binding the past to our present. His Julian calendar, with its steady cadence of days, still shapes our years, its leap days a quiet gift from a man who tamed time itself. Picture a farmer in a distant province, sowing by its rhythm, unaware that his fields bloom under Caesar's design. His reforms, land for veterans, citizenship for the provinces, laid the foundation for an empire that spanned seas and mountains. Picture a marketplace in Gaul, now Romanized, where traders haggle in Latin, their coins stamped with Caesar's profile. His vision of a united Rome, once a dream that cost him his life, became Augustus's reality, a pax romana that brought peace, if not freedom, to millions. Yet Caesar's myth is more than laws and conquests. It is a story that captures the human heart. Picture the poets of Rome, their quills scratching under lamplight as they weave his deeds into verse. Virgil's Aeneid, though not directly about Caesar, echoes his divine ancestry, linking Rome's founder to the man who reshaped it. In later centuries, his name becomes a title, Caesar, Kaiser, Czar, worn by rulers who dream of his glory. Picture a medieval scribe, his breath clouding in a cold monastery, copying Caesar's Commentarii, its crisp prose still vivid. The Renaissance sees him reborn in art, his marble busts gazing from palazzi, while Shakespeare's quill brings him to life on stage, his betrayal a tragedy that echoes in theaters even today. Picture a performance in London, centuries later, where actors tread the boards, their voices crying, "Et tu, brute," as audiences gasp. Caesar's story, with its blend of ambition, betrayal, and divinity, resonates across time, a mirror to our own struggles for power and meaning. His life asks questions that linger. Can a man change the world without breaking it? Does greatness justify its cost? Picture a philosopher in a candle-lit study, pondering these questions, his books open to Plutarch's tales of Caesar's rise and fall. Even in our modern age, his name evokes power. Think of a politician invoking, crossing the Rubicon to describe a bold choice, or a historian tracing the roots of empire to a man who dared to dream beyond his republic. Caesar's flaws, too, are part of his eternity. His ambition, which lifted Rome to new heights, also sowed the seeds of its republic's end. Picture the Senate's empty benches, their marble cold, as Augustus rules alone, his empire built on Caesar's ashes. The conspirators, Brutus and Cassius, believed they saved liberty, yet their daggers birthed a monarchy. Caesar's love for Cleopatra, a spark of passion that bridged east and west, fueled fears that toppled him. Picture her in Alexandria, her final moments haunted by his memory, as she chose death over defeat. Their son, Caesarion, a fleeting hope for a united empire, fell to Augustus's ambition, a reminder that even God's children are mortal. In Rome, the cult of Divus Julius endures, its altars tended long after Augustus's reign. Picture a soldier in a distant fort, offering wine to Caesar's star, believed to have risen at his death, a comet that burned for 7 days. The people from Britain to Egypt saw it as a sign of his divinity, a light that still guides Rome's dreams. His statues, crowned with laurels, stand in every forum, their eyes seeming to watch the empire he birthed. Picture a traveler, weary from the road, pausing before one, his thoughts drifting to tales of Gaul and the Rubicon. Caesar's story, told in taverns and courts, becomes a myth that binds the empire, a shared memory of a man who was both hero and warning. As the centuries pass, Caesar's name weaves into our own world. Picture a classroom where students parse his commentary, their voices stumbling over Latin, yet captivated by his clarity. His strategies are studied in war colleges, his reforms in history books, his life a lens for understanding power. Yet it is his humanity, his courage, his flaws, his dreams that keeps him alive. Picture yourself tonight, wherever you are, listening to this tale as the world quiets. The stars above you are the same that shone over the Rubicon, over Alesia, over Alexandria. Caesar's story invites you to ponder. What is the price of greatness, and what endures when all else fades? As the night wraps you in its gentle embrace, let Caesar's myth carry you towards sleep. His life, a blaze of glory and tragedy, reminds us that even the greatest fall, yet their echoes linger. Picture Rome, its hills eternal, its stones whispering his name. What does it mean to be eternal, to live beyond the grave in the hearts of those who follow? As your eyes grow heavy, let's rest in the shadow of Caesar's legacy, where history and dreams intertwine, guiding us softly into the night. As the stars fade into the soft embrace of dawn, we leave behind the Rome of Gaius Julius Caesar, a city of marble and ambition, where one man's dreams reshaped the world. His journey, from the gritty alleys of the Subura to the gilded halls of Alexandria, from the battlefields of Gaul to the Senate's bloodied floor, remains a story that stirs the heart. Caesar was no mere conqueror. He was a force of will, a man who dared to bend time, law, and empire to his vision, yet paid the ultimate price for his audacity. Picture the Forum now, silent under the first light, its altars to Divus Julius glowing with the offerings of a people who still whisper his name. His legacy, woven into Rome's stones and our own calendars, endures, a reminder that greatness is both a gift and a burden, its echoes rippling through centuries to touch us tonight. As you drift towards sleep, imagine standing on Rome's Capitoline Hill, the Tiber glinting below, its waters carrying the weight of Caesar's triumphs and tragedies. His story invites us to reflect. What does it mean to chase a dream that outlives you, to leave a mark that others will both revere and fear? Whether you're listening from a quiet bedroom under a starry sky or a bustling city where the night hums, I hope this tale has wrapped you in the calm of history's embrace. Where are you tonight, and what time is it there? Share your moment in the comments below. Let's gather, like Romans around a fire, to trade stories across time. If this journey through Caesar's life has soothed or inspired you, please like, subscribe, and tap the notification bell to join me for more tales from history's vast tapestry. Your support keeps these stories alive, and I'm so grateful to have you here. Hello, my name is Sherry, and thank you for wandering through Rome with me. Until next time, may your dreams be as bold as Caesar's, and may you rest gently under the stars.